New England, they ought to be looking at all the ISOs and their costs, and have them do these cost-benefit analysis. So what we did was, as a group of municipals, we put out a letter, a form letter that a customer can sign saying that the customer is concerned about the costs of the ISO, and that somebody in the federal government should be watching the ISO and watching what their costs are and having them perform cost-benefit analysis. So, Priscilla, I'm not sure you could go into the details.
So we have the letters out front for those of you who didn't sign them on the way in. Any business owners or residents of Reading, North Reading, Linfield, or Wilmington, if you'd like to sign those letters. Vinny's going down to Washington at the end of the month.
The 23rd.
Yeah, the 23rd. And he's going to take the letters. And we're leaving them in the libraries, the town halls, the senior centers, and all our pay stations, so that, you know, when people come in, they can also sign them here. So if you didn't sign the one out front, sign it on your way out.
Thank you, Jenny. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I'm honored to be part of the panel today, and I wanted to share with you a quick little story to start things off. A story about two mice that fell into a bucket of milk. And the first mouse looked around and said, "I give up. I'm going to just drowned and died away." The second mouse got really vigorous, kicked his arms, kicked his legs, and he turned the milk into cream and crawled out. And I feel like if we're all here this morning, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to crawl out of that kettle and figure out some things we can do to improve our businesses. So what I thought, my expertise is obviously financial advising, financial planning. And I thought I'd just talk about 3 or 4 points of things you can do. Personally, when you're trying to run your business, you still have a personal financial life to run as well. And you know, after 2008 being such a terrible year, there's still, you know, we can get through that, but there's some things you need to do in 2009 to take advantage of what's going on and shore up your situation. But the first thing I want to talk about is just reviewing your goals. Because your goals might have been different starting in 2008. You might have had grandiose plans, and now that's changed, so you really need to reevaluate what your goals are, get back to the basics. Might be, you know, different outlook, it might be changing your family. So it's good to, that'd be the first thing to start. What are your goals now compared to where they were even as short as a year ago? The second thing I'd really highlight is reviewing your savings and spending. You know, whether you're saving for retirement or you know, saving for the kids to get to college, you need to take a good hard look at those programs. See, hey, is this a good time to be adding money to those particular programs? So very important to review that and really, you know, boil it down. The third point would be to, you know, look at your portfolio and you know, see where there's potential to upgrade it. It's the high quality things that really get us through these tough times, not the low quality items. And you kind of break that down into a few parts. You're kind of getting that further down to goals. Review what your objective is for your portfolio. Is it growth? Is it income? Is it a combination of the two? Do you have too much of one thing? You know, there's been a lot of companies out there that people, you know, work for, gotten overexposed, and that's, you know, some of those hits are hard to recover from. So you really need to make sure that you're not too much of any one thing. And just evaluate the total number of holdings you have. That's very, very, very important. You know, if you have less than, you know, 10 or 12 holdings, you might want to look to go, you know, with a more diversified program, because it's very hard if 1 or 2 of those things don't work out. When you're looking at income, you need to, you know, CD rates are very, very low these days. They're 1% to 2%. You know, so investors are looking at alternatives. So you need to really sit down and say, where can I generate income on a, you know, and protect my principal? And there are some alternatives out there that they need to be investigated. The fourth point would be to, with things being down after last year, there are some opportunities to take some tax losses that can benefit you in future years. You may be looking at higher capital gains rates in the future. So if you have something you're still up on, it might be a good chance to take some of those gains and losses and you know, plan out the next 3 to 5 years. And finally, it's sometimes hard to do, but this is probably one of the best opportunities if you're contributing to some type of retirement plan. You know, the return potential from here looks pretty, you know, interesting. It looks, you know, pretty dramatic. So you know, some people say, well, I'm going to skip making my contribution this year. Well, that's probably the absolute wrong thing to do. That money you put in today could be worth, you know, substantially more you know, than waiting a couple of years. So I would, you know, again, highly highly recommend, taking a good hard look at your finances and while you're trying to run your business, to keep your personal finances. So, those are my comments. So,
thank you, Eric. First of all, I'd like to again thank Irene and the Chamber for having me here today to join this panel. As Eric commented, it is indeed an honor. I'm going to talk about a little bit about my business and a little bit about what I try to tell clients and other businesses in general. First of all, the best time to prepare for a down economy is before it gets here. Sometimes that happens and many times it doesn't. Unfortunately, businesses especially, and individuals, enjoy the good times without looking ahead, thinking there might be a cloud on the horizon. Many factors can determine whether or not businesses, or that matter families, can survive down economies unscathed. The single most important issue in my estimation is liquidity. Everybody's hearing about foreclosures, businesses closing, layoffs, all sorts of quote-unquote bad signs, and they are bad signs. But during good times, it's easy to look at your cash flow when both parents are working or both spouses are working, or when the economy is good and the business is going well, and think cash flow's never been an issue, so why should I have to worry about it? I think that's a big mistake, and it's a mistake that is very, very common. What I recommend to all businesses and all individuals for that matter is to have some sort of access to a line of credit. An emergency fund everybody needs, Eric will tell you that. Very frequently people don't have what they need. Another way to substitute that is having a line of credit. For businesses, they have SBA loans, there are different loans out there that you can have a line of credit you can draw against when you do need some cash, and cash flow is very important, as most of you business owners know. For individuals, or even for business owners who can't get a business line of credit, you can have an unused home equity line of credit against your residence. For business owners, of course, this makes what could be corporate debt personal debt, but functionally it's not too different in that most of your corporate obligations are co-signed or guaranteed by the business owner individually. A lot of people don't realize that when businesses, in many cases, when they take a loan or when they look at these large companies that go bust and at the end of the day everybody walks away happy, that's not the case with small companies. Small companies usually have to sign, the principals have to sign as guarantor. So as a result, they're exposed anyway. So having access to the line of credit at least reduces the likelihood that you're going to be in that position, because when you have the need for cash, you can come up with it. It's something, like I said, I typically recommend getting it, and I especially recommend getting it before you need it. I've had a business line and a home equity line, which is something that I look at as a sign of comfort. If I ever need it, it's there, just on a personal level. But when you do need it, it's usually too late. If you decide, oh, my income's been suffering, my cash flow's been suffering, or for that matter, I'm behind on a few bills, your credit usually has suffered. You're not going to qualify in many cases for the loan that if you had gotten it during the good times, you would have had no trouble getting. So I certainly suggest before there's a major issue, take the steps, get a line. They're relatively low cost. They're certainly worth having. And especially in credit markets like this, it gets harder and harder every day, so don't delay. The other thing that I'm going to say is marketing. People frequently reduce or eliminate their marketing, businesses I should say, usually reduce or eliminate their marketing budgets and their promotion budgets. I think that's exactly the wrong response. In times of trouble, obviously you have to watch where the money's going. You have to account for every penny, because you're not bringing in as much, therefore you can't spend as much. But I recommend using a scalpel and not a chainsaw. You need to trim the fat, not the muscle. I've certainly changed my marketing. I've absolutely modified my budget. I've had to say no to projects that I may have contributed to in the past, even charitable donations that I've contributed to in the past. But when times are good, everybody spends money advertising. I mean, the ads are that much thicker. So what happens is, in a difficult market, there may be fewer clients that you're competing over, but you're competing with far fewer people who have cut their budgets. So I think well-placed advertising, well-placed marketing efforts, I think, is a good idea. I've cut back on some things and I've ramped up others. You need to analyze what will this do for you? And if you think it will help, go ahead and do it. Not only the short term, everybody worries about tomorrow. My thought is also don't lose sight of the longer term plan. What I've done is I've tried to take steps that are short-term marketing steps, but then also keeping in mind I want to position myself, and I think all businesses want to position themselves for when the market does change. So be prepared to take advantage of it when it does change. So it's the short term, yes, but also the long term. Don't forget about the long term, because that's ultimately what will yield the real results. You know, one of the things that I think it's important to remember as business owners is you have to stay positive. You know, I'm not the type to keep up appearances. I'm not the type to do something for the sake of looking good, clearly. But that being said, people are drawn to positive people, positive energy, so to say. If you walk around, you know, with your head down, spreading misery everywhere you go, the number of people you walk around with is going to dwindle quickly. That's true for businesses, that's true for people. So a positive attitude definitely can guarantee your success, but a negative attitude can guarantee your failure. So I think you need to keep that in mind. It's something you can control, it costs you nothing. Lastly, I'm also going to mention, you know, when I talk about marketing, it's not just marketing, it's also getting involved in the community. You know, I know Eric, myself, Dave, as I said here, Priscilla, are members of the North Reading Rotary Club. It's something that we do to get involved with the community. We get some, you know, benefit as being a member as far as the notoriety, but on the whole, it's to do something to, you know, to give back. And I think that in the times that when you've been seen as giving back, that's something that the community would likely put a value in. We're all members of the chamber. Getting involved with other businesses, getting involved in charitable organizations, civic organizations, it shouldn't just be about the check you're writing, it should be about the time you're spending. And quite frankly, you know, most of my business comes from word of mouth. Many of you, it's probably the same. A yellow page ad that may get you a customer, absolutely. But your past customers, your past clients, the people who feel like you did right by them, or for that matter, they ran across you in another part of your life, maybe even not your business, but you feel you did right by them there. Those are the people who are going to help you get through. And the business owners who did not invest that time, invest that energy, or for that matter, the business owners who did not treat their customers right are not going to get that business. And that's a huge amount of business to give up in an economy like this. That's it. I'll answer questions at the end. Dave?
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Again, I'd like to thank Irene and the Chamber for inviting me here today.